What do a newspaper columnist, a community activist, and a journalist have in common? Sometimes absolutely nothing, and that's what makes the Another View Roundtable must-listen-to radio. On today's edition of the Roundtable, we'll talk about the General Assembly, the military, voter rights, and the role of black media in today's society. Plus, some thoughts on the best way to spend Valentine's Day. Roger Chesley, Bill Thomas, and Wil LaVeist are ready to square off on these and other issues. I'm Barbara Ham Lee, and the Another View Roundtable is next, right after this news from NPR.
Discussing the issues and celebrating the successes of the African American community. This is Another View.
And happy Friday, everybody. I'm Barbara Ham Lee. Welcome to Another View. Hope you're keeping dry out there in this rainy Friday afternoon, but we're going to have a great conversation today. It is the second Friday of the month, so it's time for the Another View Roundtable. Please welcome Virginian-Pilot columnist Roger Chesley, and you can read his column every Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday. Hey, Roger.
Hey, Barbara. How you doing today?
I'm doing great. How you doing?
On this wet, wild day.
Yes, it is. Community activist Bill Thomas. Bill, how are you?
I'm here. I'm out serving the community.
That's fantastic. And journalist and talk show host Wil LaVeist. How you doing, Will?
I'm hanging. I'm hanging.
lot of stuff going on, huh?
Yeah. I'm trying to deal with this cold. Yeah.
We are missing our friend Carol Pretlow today. She's not feeling well. So, Carol, we're sending you lots of love from Another View.
I heard she joined the Marines.
And we will get into that discussion.
We definitely miss you. You're going to have to referee for real today.
Absolutely.
A lot of testosterone up there.
That's very true. But before we get started with our topics, I do want to say give a special shout out to the folks at WCTV. They had me on yesterday on their show called Thinking Out Loud. And
Mark Cox.
It was Mark Cox and Ray Pearson Ben as the producer, and they were great. It was very warm and wonderful, and people watched because I actually got text last night, which was pretty cool. So just wanted to say thank you all very, very much. It was a great time. So his name is Six King. His sign reads, "The KKK killed 3,446 blacks in 86 years. Black-on-black murders surpass that number every 6 months." Let's hear why he's doing this.
We're bringing awareness to the black hypocrisy, complacency, and apathy in the African American community.
I don't think it will stop someone from killing, but hopefully it would make that person think.
This happened in Philadelphia. This is an African-American man standing on a major corner in downtown Philly wearing a KKK outfit. Your thoughts?
It's kind of wild, but obviously attention-getting. And if I'm not mistaken, the Urban League had a public service announcement like this probably about 25 years ago. Very much along the same theme. There's all this, and in that case, it was a lot about gang violence, black gang violence at the time that was going on. I think mostly on the West Coast in the L.A. area. But obviously, it's something that I've written about in some of my columns before. There's a lot of outrage that takes place nationwide when something like Trayvon Martin happens. But where is the similar outrage when we kill each other day after day, year after year? And it's somewhat of a misnomer to say black on black or white on white crime, because the fact of the matter is most homicides take place with intraracial as opposed to otherwise. But the bigger issue is we don't really say too much when we make up such a huge percentage of the homicide victims and perpetrators every year. It's much out of whack. I think we're around 40% of the homicide victims in any given year.
And we're only, 12% of the population?
About 13% of the population.
13% of the population. Bill?
I've talked about this with Roger. Roger wrote a very interesting piece, Where's the Outrage? I still have it, and waiting for somebody to call up and follow up with him on that.
So where is the outrage? Why do you think that we're not, why don't we jump up and scream when someone in our own community is killed by someone from our own community?
We've lost our moral values. We don't have leadership. When you don't have leadership, there's a void. And then people dressing up like a Ku Klux Klan member and all this other outrage steps in the vacuum. And we've had this for a number of years. I mean, I moved into the inner city in Norfolk for this very reason in 1998-ish. Over 2 years in Norfolk, 57 African-American men, Charlize Lyles, I don't remember her or not. I do. And we documented it. And we went to each church. We went to, the only churches that talked to us were the white churches. The black churches ran away from it. They're out there with those theaters that they had with the big TV screens and the yelling and the shouting. And there was something on there about T.D. Jakes the other day about him. He's just a commercial. These pastors, for the most part, not all, are just comedians. They're clowns, actually, because they're just ignoring the reality that right around their corner, you can go to any major church in Portsmouth or Hampton or in Norfolk, and right around the corner is drugs, depravity, everything, and nobody says anything. And then we have these big, colossal entertainment centers that they call churches. We have people down there bending on their knees, praying to somebody. I don't know who, because they're not praying. I know you don't want to hear this, but it is true. They walk right out of the church, get into a Mercedes-Benz, and head right on back out to Virginia Beach or where I live out here, in Harbor View.
And to play devil's advocate for just a minute now, a lot of them, you're talking about the mega churches in particular, and they will say that they have tons of programs where they reach into the community. Will.
Ineffective programs.
Yeah, I think that it's really a wonderful effort of what he's doing. I think that the challenge is, do we get caught up in what he's done and focus on that, the outrage or the provocativeness of wearing a KKK hood, and then miss the message of what he's tying into. And I think that what happened is, coming out of the civil rights movement, we got rid of legal racism and segregation. But then we forgot, we didn't make this transition to renewing our minds and now focusing on, okay, how do we now learn how to behave in this system that still exists, the racism that still exists? How do we now tackle it? And so when he does it in this provocative way and looks at what the black community should be doing, one of the things is we need to, as Roger alluded to, we need to stop saying that it's black on black crime. Because, and why I say that, because when you do that, you now absolve white people from saying, well, it's their problem. All right. We also need to, as Bill was just saying, be able to face it and realize that when you put people in certain circumstances, situations, you're going to have certain natural behavior that's going to happen. So if you put white people in a position where they are oppressed in a community like this, they're going to do the same types of crimes. This is not a black thing.
So it's not unique to just the black community.
So the challenge is understanding what's the conditions, what's the situation, and now what do we do about it? And now how do we get in there and do something about it?
I don't see it quite the same way, because I think you have to be concerned anytime you're 13% of the population and you're 40% of the victims. And anybody who has gone to, I've taken tours of some of the local jails here, and you wonder where all the young black men are. They're there.
They're in jail.
That's where they are.
And there are church members who are, involved in this issue and trying to do things. Their efforts aren't always noted quite as much. And one I'll say right off, Reverend Jake Manley in Chesapeake, he's been involved in this. But where's the sustained effort? You don't quite see the same sustained effort, the sustained outrage. Why aren't we marching? Why aren't we saying every church is going to try to adopt, one person or one family to try to make things better? There are so many of our black men who get out of prison every year, because most of them in there are going to get out. There's only a small percentage that aren't going to get out eventually someday. But the alternatives for them when they get out are so hard. And on the flip side, what are we doing to help those people who aren't in a life of crime do better as they get older? Where's the support system for that? And you do wonder whether some of our leading organizations are really equipped for the struggle that exists now.
So, Bill, what is it about today? Where is the civil rights movement? You know what I'm saying? In terms of back when the civil rights movement was at its peak and everybody was marching and everybody was in lockstep. Is it because we don't have one single leader or a set of leaders that are out there?
If you look at all our great leaders, from Gandhi to Martin Luther King to Malcolm X, they made horrendous sacrifices. None of us collectively are willing to make those sacrifices, to lead by example. And I would like to count the number of mega churches we have in our urban communities and how many ministers actually live in those communities. You lead by example. We can't have 75% of our kids born out of wedlock. You just can't have that. That's societal breakdown. You can't have sex when you want it and how you want it if you're not going to be responsible for what you produce. I mean, that's just not, you're going to have a societal problem. If you don't educate, we've lost respect for education. Just in the paper the other day in the Virginian-Pilot, they said 14 of the schools in Norfolk are not accredited. And you can't have that. And then you get this superintendent you think is another Superman or something. That's not going to happen. It happens in the homes. We have to have legitimacy in terms of who we are and how we respect each other. And just add on to the guy marching around in the KKK outfit. According to FBI statistics, 253,000 African Americans have died on the streets of America in the past 20 years. I mean, why are we fighting in Iran? Why are we trying to give immigration a priority? We have a war, as Mr. Obama said once, a quiet riot happening right here in the streets of America.
Barbara, Roger said that he doesn't quite see it the same way, but he just made my point. Look, the abolitionist movement focused on getting rid of slavery. Once that happened, it was like, okay, we accomplished that. Civil rights movement focused on getting rid of illegal laws. Okay, what has happened is, what do we need to be focusing on now? We need to be focusing on renewing our minds under this system of racism that still exists. It's still in the. Bill has been saying this on the show. How long we've been doing this show? It still exists. So it's in your mindset. And so what we see when we see people attacking each other and killing each other, that is part of the natural occurrence of what you can expect when you don't value a human being because of this system that you're operating under. So when you say, why haven't people been out there outraged? Because the focus was on getting rid of the legal laws. Well, those laws are gotten rid of. I can now live where I want to live. I can now do the things I want to do. Well, what is there for me to do next?
I see Roger's face off around up.
I just don't believe that racism is the biggest problem to cite with this black-on-black crime or victims we're so much of the victims. I'm not willing to suggest that racism is the main problem or the main reason for that. I think there's a lot of self-hatred that some of it might be part of. And that is a byproduct. I'm not blaming racism on that. I'm sorry.
That is a byproduct.
I'm not blaming racism on that. I've covered.
Do you know what racism is?
I'm sorry.
Do you know what racism is?
You and me have done too many stories of black folks young black men who have been killed or in prison, and I'm not necessarily blaming that on racism. It might be a part of the reason, but there's a lot of other stuff going on
when brothers kill each other, they are buying into racism. And what his message is, you have now taken on the mindset of that's what you have done. That's exactly what he's doing.
Hold on.
That's a huge leap. That's exactly what his message is.
There's a lot of people who don't even respect each other, and you're blaming that for racism?
I think if you put it in this context, Rogers, it's what I call institutionalized racism. Now, let me give you an example. That could be done by African Americans or by white folks. Now, the tragic loss of those kids in Connecticut, the 20 that were shot down, and Lord knows
26
altogether.
Well, the kids were 20.
20 kids were 20.
Right.
20. And then you have the President of the United States of America, a black man, gets up on TV and starts crying. The very same week, a child that participated in an inaugural band out of his neighborhood, the girl goes home, young lady goes home, and she gets shot. That next weekend, 15 African-American kids going to school or just working are shot down. So what they see, what these children see on TV is the fact that he's showing attention to this group And these other groups get no attention because we're seen as powerless people. That's institutionalized racism. And it's just institutionalized where people feel they have no value. You can go right down to the Virginia General Assembly and what I call General Assembly budget bigotry. It's just the fact that they value us so little and what they think we contribute to the American goodwill and to liberty and freedom, they just ignore us.
Barbara, mark this moment because Bill and I are on the same page.
I'm scared of this.
And as a result, we devalue ourselves. And what I'm trying to get across to Roger is, Roger, it goes on right in your newsroom. It's right in your newsroom, the mindset.
Yeah, but wait a
the
minute.
mindset is right in the media. The mindset is all over us.
I'm not
we
saying
devalue ourselves, so therefore you see young brothers shooting each other because of it's a natural byproduct of this system in which we live. So what we need to do is how do we now figure out how to renew our minds so that we're not buying into this mess?
Okay, let's let Roger
I'm not
respond.
suggesting that that's eliminated, but I'm not about to say that that's the only reason. I mean, institutional or legal racism has been gone for decades.
Right.
So we're saying that that's the root of the problem for people who've been born in the last 20 years.
What do you think the root of the problem is?
I think there's a lot of root of the problem, and some of this is social. There's been the breakdown of the family. Some of it is, I think, a lack of morals, a lack of self-respect and self-love. And I think so much has been put on the black middle class to say, hey, try to fix the problem for the people who aren't doing well, when it should be the whole country's problem. Mm-hmm. But I think it's a little bit oversimplistic to say that racism is at the root of all this.
No, we're saying institutionalized racism. Let me give you another example. For your paper.
Okay.
Your paper did a fine series on cancer in Portsmouth. Mm-hmm. And the city of Portsmouth had the highest cancer rates and death, or horrible cancer, in the entire state. 3-part series, well written, well taken. Delegate Johnny Joanno voted against us building our cancer center. Mm-hmm. And he's voting against his own people.
Meaning us, meaning Hampton University.
Yes, mm-hmm. Yes. Get Hampton University Proton Therapy Institute, with all his people, his constituents, are dying from this very disease. That shows no respect. And our people don't even have enough courage or fortitude to stand up and fight him. He needs to be unelected.
So what does that say about us as a people for not doing it? And also, as you saw, one other thing.
Yes, sir.
And there was one thing about the main person, the main figure in that article. She didn't go as soon as she should have to have gotten treatment.
Because
she was almost afraid of doing what she should have
done. Here's what I recommend people do. Go read Martin Luther King's letter from Birmingham jail.
Absolutely.
Go read his speech.
Right.
Before the I Have a Dream part that everybody loves. Mm-hmm. Read what he said. And that's what he was after, and that's what he was talking about. This is everybody's problem. What is racism? Racism is when one group of people, just simply based on their skin color, has no significance. Skin color has no more significance than eye color or hair color.
Right.
Mm-hmm. One group of people are valued over everyone else, right? Now, what happens is the byproducts of all of that is what we're seeing. It is everybody's problem. It used to be legal. Now it's not legal anymore. But the outcome of it's mindset. And so what we need to be involved in, engaged in, is renewing our minds. One of the reasons why I'm sitting here, while we're all sitting here, is because we came from support systems that said, don't buy into that crap. Yeah. And so that's how we were able to come out of that, and that's why I'm able to transfer that to my children and so forth and so on. Mm-hmm. But I grew up in the same inner city public housing environment that this brother is talking about in Philadelphia, and I saw that mindset rampant all around me, and my parents said, don't buy into that. Don't buy into that. And so that's why
it goes back to the home. It starts in the home.
And but you're talking about something that took place, that's half a century ago now. What have we been doing in the...
Sleep?
Yeah,
We've
exactly.
been asleep.
That's not half a century ago. It exists
it's
now.
It's not continuing in
We're
the same way.
We're about to have a conversation
it's not
about.
Continuing
I didn't
in the
say
same
it's continuing. You're absolutely right. It's not continuing in the same way. That is the issue. Is that to stop looking at it in the same way, but don't deny that it's not existing.
Well, I'm not saying that it doesn't exist, but we got to look inward also and see what we are not doing as a people.
Well, you're just making my point. We agree with that.
Okay,
we all do agree to this.
Let me finish this.
And then we're going to move on to the General Assembly.
We have healthcare disparities. We have educational disparities. We have death disparities. Every disparity, every element in the world is on our race.
One group of people?
One group of people. Now, here's where I'm going to end this, Roger. I would have never thought it 24 years ago when I had this beautiful child brought in this world, young lady, that today I would look at and say, she will never, ever marry a black person. There are not any men out there. It's just the institutionalization of black men, perception of them being in prison and not in college.
Just one group.
Just one group. It's so
Latinos
profound.
too.
That's what we're saying.
Yeah.
And y'all can't see it.
Brown skin.
Y'all don't listen.
Okay,
if
we're
20
listening.
white kids died in Hampton Roads, they would stop the work. They would stand the Navy down and hunt the killers down. We have people dying here every weekend, and nobody says crap. Just another dead Negro. And let's move on. And you got the president up there putting a stamp of approval on it. That is wrong, and it's institutionalized.
So we need to stop saying that it's just a black problem. It is an American problem. And everybody needs to be engaged in it because that is the system.
Okay, and so we make it this American problem, but we also know that if we aren't the ones to push it or to make it happen, it's not going to happen.
Nowhere.
So what do we need to be doing to make it happen?
We need to be, again, renewing our minds and understanding what is the root of this and not buy into it. And we need to do the types of things that our parents taught us about not buying into this mindset. The church, we've been talking about the church. Scripture teaches, be not conformed to this world. Be ye transformed by the renewing of your mind. And that's what we have to do. And this is why we got such an attack on our education system. That addresses the mind. And so if you can continue to feed the same mindset, then you're going to continue to have the same results. If your churches are weak in terms of power, spirituality deals with the mind, you're going to have the same outcome. So this is where the battle is now. It's not in the legal, it's not in the laws, it's in the mind now.
Intellectual.
Okay, let's move on to the General Assembly.
Thank God.
State Senator Henry Marsh went to President Obama's inauguration, and the Republicans tried really hard and the Senate voted to change the voting districts in favor of Republicans. Let's listen to something from the Colbert Report about this.
This past Monday, these boys redrew the district lines for the Virginia State Senate to make 8 electoral districts, 6 of them presently held by Democrats, more heavily Republican, and to concentrate more minority voters in a new South Side district. And they did it by pushing the redrawn state political map past flabbergasted Democrats. Now, frankly, I don't see why these Democrats' gasts are so flabbered. The state Senate is split 20 Republicans and 20 Democrats. Why did the Democrats just stop them? I'll tell you why. Because these Republicans are alpha dogs.
Republicans chose to introduce the legislation on a day when one Democrat wasn't there.
Yes. They waited until Democrat Senator and longtime civil rights leader Henry Marsh left town on Martin Luther King Day to attend President Obama's inauguration. How fitting. In the words of Dr. King, I have been to the mountaintop, and while I was there, they heavily redistricted the promised land. But, But I think the way these good old alpha dogs really swung their sacks in the faces of black voters was that after this vote on Martin Luther King Day, they adjourned in memory of Confederate General Stonewall Jackson. After all, what better alpha way to honor Dr. King? Because if it weren't for the Confederacy, he wouldn't have had that much to do.
That's from the Colbert Report. You have to chuckle, but I have to tell you, I had never heard of Lee Jackson King Day until I moved to Virginia. Yeah. So
another institutional racism. That's what I'm telling you. Another case of institutional racism. How can our black folks who are elected stand for that? I mean, the Confederates, as many of them died, and I respect their losses, but they lost the war.
So where are we with this change?
Well, of course,
Roger?
now Speaker Howell in the House said he was not going to go forward on this, and so the gerrymandered districts apparently won't go any further
at this time.
And, right now, and a lot of reason or what's believed to be a lot of the reason why he did this was because he wants to get some buy-in from the Democrats in the Senate to go ahead with some of the governor's transportation proposal and some other proposals that he did. So maybe if that hadn't been out there, we would have seen whether Speaker Howe would have felt the same way about this. But I'm not sure it would have passed constitutional muster anyway because of the way it went about and because of the type of changes that took place.
Well, what do you think about just the whole idea of just even trying it?
I mean,
the
that's
fact
just,
that they put it out there like that.
That's an old mindset of believing that we can still do things in an old way and people will buy it. And what you see here from Colbert is, it's a beautiful thing. You hear somebody say, come on, we move beyond. This is absurd. And then Howell obviously had to do the right thing and say, come on, this is absurd.
Mm-hmm. And the other thing that is in play in the General Assembly, a House bill has been introduced that would, quote, remove a copy of current utility bill, bank statement, government check, or paycheck that shows the name and address of the voter as a means of voter ID. All these different things within bills are being raised about changing the way that we can vote.
Well, the GOP, and it's not just in Virginia, it's around the country too. They're trying to find ways of getting as much of their diminishing base out and trying to tamp down on the turnout for Democrats, for the Democrats' base. Fortunately, it seems like the Democrats are still going to be able to get out their base, but they're going to have to work harder at it, and they're going to have to fight on the redistricting end, and they're going to have to call out the Republicans where possible, and if necessary, make sure that there are no constitutional bars to doing what some of the Republicans are trying to do.
Bill, you've been up at the General Assembly. What have you been observing? I
sent y'all all a song about somebody picking some cotton. And unfortunately, we're still out in the fields picking cotton, and that's just the way it is. The point is, you can't trust anybody to do the right thing. You have to stay on the job. And I stayed on the job. I didn't go. I didn't believe it. I mean, they'll say, well, we're going to end the General Assembly because of the weather. And then they'll have all these secret committee meetings. I mean, so you just have to be on the job. But at the end of the day, we have to get our folks who represent us in both the majority side and in the minority side in the African American community to represent us. We're not getting anything. So to me, General Assembly is just an exercise in futility. They're going to get more money to build prisons. They're going to try to trick the Democrats into believing that they don't want to change the redistricting, which they end up will do anyhow. So I don't know. I don't see too much success or any much effort in that from our part.
If you're just joining us, we're talking with the Another View Roundtable. We have Virginian-Pilot columnist Roger Chesley, community activist Bill Thomas, and journalist and talk show host Wil LaVeist. And my producer Lisa Godley just sent me a note. According to CNN, Jesse Jackson Jr. has just signed a plea deal admitting to violating campaign finance laws. So.
Smart is good. And acting like you're sick or crazy, or you got a head injury like Hillary Clinton, they're smart.
That's pretty mean, Bill.
That's smart.
Bill, that's mean.
It's true.
You don't think that he had a problem?
Oh, no.
Really?
Absolutely not.
Okay. Tiffany joins us from Columbus, Georgia. Hi, Tiffany. How are you?
Hi, I'm so happy to be on with you guys.
Oh, thank you so much. You're streaming us on WHRV?
Yes, I am. I went to my Facebook. I had just created a like page for a friend of mine's organization, and I have been a huge fan of you all since I found you on YouTube, and I watched every single video in one weekend.
Oh, my goodness.
And so I created a like page so that I can, and then I liked you all page so I could keep up to date, and I saw it, and I said, ooh, let me call in.
Oh,
but I wanted to share with you all, I heard you as I was talking to your producer, what do we do about the gun violence? Well, I was telling her, where I live, there's a club right next door to where I live. I live in housing. And this club has a shooting every weekend. This club has been open since I've been here in Columbus. I'm originally from Chicago. I've been here 30-plus years. The last shooting we had was New Year's Eve. 6 people were shot, 1 killed in one night. And I think that finally did something to where our mayor, and we have our first female mayor here in Columbus. That's a huge thing, especially in the South. And she is trying her best to deal with some of the blighted areas and the economic segregation here in the city. And I sit on a number of community boards and whatnot, and I can tell you, having to explain to people who've never seen poverty why they deserve a fair shot is very difficult. One of the things that housing is trying to do is bring in people to help manage the properties, and they just got voted out of going on one particular side of town. What they want to do is build homes so that people can be closer to their jobs. And then that community said no, because you're going to bring crime with you. Where there's poor people, there's crime. And so a part of that is the reason why we have so much violence in our country, is because when you have someone who does the right thing, they go to school, they get an education, they find a job, and then somebody tells them, you can't live next door to me because you can't afford the same rent I can. Well, that kind of devastates a person. And God help you if you live in housing and you move out of housing, you'll always be branded as such. And I see that when I see people move out of housing and they go back into housing, you see it, because this is where they're comfortable at. This is where people know them. And there's no judgment among poor people like it is in middle class and wealthier classes.
Okay,
So,
let's let the roundtable respond to, you brought up several points, and we really appreciate you listening to us through the stream and also watching us when we were on TV. So absolutely. So thank you so much, Tiffany, for your call. But she brings up a good point, and the question, we talk a lot about race, but we haven't really talked about the whole class issue and how that plays into it also, Roger.
Well, I mean that there are certain hurdles that those at the lower end of the economic ladder have to deal with, and some of it is the concentration of poverty, and some of it is the concentration of poor schools in those communities that are poor. And that's why you hope that you give people opportunities to see how the other half lives, to have enough role models within their own communities to say, hey, I can strive to do this. There are opportunities for me, and if I do buckle down, then maybe I will get those chances.
But where do you get the wherewithal? Because if you've already got to struggle because you don't have money, and then you've got to struggle because somebody assumes because you're poor that you're a criminal and that you're worthless, that you can't achieve. So you have a double hurdle there.
Exactly, and I think that one of the problems that we have is that when we begin to talk about the system that we live under, then if everybody starts saying, oh, you're just blaming the government, just this, that, or the other. We got to recognize, I'll give you an analogy. If you have bread and you put bread in a moist, dark, warm place, what is going to happen to that bread?
It's going to get moldy.
It's going to get moldy.
Right.
So is that the bread's fault? It doesn't matter if it's white bread or brown bread. It's going to get moldy. So is that the bread's fault? And what do? We say, well, throw out the bread. So you got to also look at the system and conditions under people are dealing with and say, what can be done there? Now, at the same time, okay, what can we do? What can people learn, as your question is how to renew their minds and how to not buy into those things. And you need family support. You need to have been born at some level with some kind of, because everybody doesn't have the same kind of motivation and same kind of tenacity. That's why you get some people that can overcome situations without having a good family support system. But you need that in place, as well as you need the community having systems in place that you can tap into and achieve. Because there's also people who will take every advantage that is out there and still make an excuse not to achieve. So we're not talking about just blaming the government, but recognizing that systems create conditions, and that's what the call is talking about.
Bill?
Well, again, I'm into what happens institutional-wise. If you don't have the resources, and Martin Luther King said if you don't have a job or income, you neither have life, liberty, nor the opportunity for the pursuit of happiness. You just merely exist in a vacuum. And he said that when he was in the jail. And he also wrote then that the institutionalized stuff, Roger, is the problem. Because I just saw on public TV, of course, him doing a profile of that, and I didn't know Billy Graham and all these people at Liberty Baptist was against him on civil rights. They were vehemently against him. I had never been, I just didn't know.
Lord have mercy.
But I didn't know. So this stuff is not 200 years old. It's 30, 40 years old. It's institutionalized. We don't have the resources because people are making bucks off the institutions to keep us where we are. They make money at it. So we don't have the resources. As good as, and it is not because we're not competitive. It's not because we don't do things that other people do to be successful. They have all the cards, and they're dealing them out, and it is not balanced.
But let me say this to you, Bill, because somebody listening to you would say, but you made it. I'm playing devil's advocate, of course, but they will say you made it. I mean, you're living a middle class life
because he had
you're
family.
Doing what you're
he
supposed
had
to do.
family support. He had people who poured into him. He had a certain level of tenacity already, because as each hurdle that he came up against, even with the family support, and there were times when he said, I'm not going to make it. And then something triggered in him and said, no, you got to keep going. You got to keep going. So when you put barriers in front of people, like, for example, right now, most job applications have to be done online. And it's about 40, 50, 100 questions. And if you don't have the tenacity to sit there and go through it, and those questions are not about whether you had the qualifications. Those questions are about eliminating you. If you answer 1 or 2 questions wrong for an application for Walmart, you're done. Mm-hmm. So if you don't have the tenacity to overcome those things and the support system to help you overcome those things, you're going to have some major problems moving forward, and then you're going to end up at that club shooting somebody.
Any response for you, Roger?
Nope.
Okay. Stephanie joins us from Suffolk. Hi, Stephanie. You're in the air.
Hi, thank you. I have a question that you mentioned a little bit earlier about the voting identification.
Uh-huh.
I'm a white person, and I've heard this argument about it being across the country and about being able to use utility bills, and I really don't understand, and I would love an explanation. I mean, I work at a food pantry, and when we ask for people's addresses, a lot of times they pull out an ID, and it's not a driver's license, but the state does issue identification cards as well at the DMV. Why is it that people don't have those and need to use a utility bill? That's confusing to me.
Okay, let's get some response from our panel. Go ahead, Roger.
You know, I've done some research on the issue, and the point of the matter is a lot of people do have ID, but those folks who are less likely to have either picture ID or state-issued ID are those people who tend to be low income, tend to be disabled, not have access to transportation, or other things that make it tougher for them to get it. Yes, there's a lot of ways to get ID, and in fact, the governor ordered the state to send out voter registration cards to everybody who was already on the rolls last year for the presidential election. So there should be fewer people that have that problem, but the fact of the matter is that, for instance, the state at first didn't want to let it be that you have college ID as being one of the ways you could go to the polls, but they were going to let you have your gun ID to be one of the ways. So the Republican Party wanted to tamp down on those folks they didn't think were in their quarter, and that's part of what the whole issue is going on right now.
The other thing that I would say to her is that people have done research to indicate what types of identification that people tend to have and what party they are more likely to support.
And what zip code they live in.
And what zip code they live in. All of those things. So there's been a lot of research that has gone behind this. And so these things have bubbled up. That, a gun ID will typically lead to a Republican vote. So that's cool. A utility ID will lead to a Democratic vote. No, we don't want that. So I happen to agree with her that I think people should be able to get photo IDs, a state-issued ID. But she also has to understand, as you talk about the issue of class, people who operate in different class levels don't have the same kind of access and wherewithal in those respects as somebody else.
I remember you saying, Bill, during the election that you were adamant that everybody should have a voter ID.
If you don't have a voter
ID, picture
you're
ID.
not, in my judgment, if you're not capable, have the intellectual capacity to get a photo voter ID, because you can get them anywhere, then you shouldn't be voting. and then here is another issue that I'm putting back on our churches.
That's an un-American.
No, you got to you got to put some effort in front of something. You just can't get everything. Sometimes you got to take things. And then again, all these big theater-like churches, they need to get some voter ID equipment and then go down to the state, get one of their black elected officials or some other ones to help them put a little amendment in the law that said we, as a certified church or whatever, of God and Christ or whatever, can issue IDs that will be acceptable.
I do agree with that.
And then why don't they then get everybody registered?
Because that's renewing the mind. That's taking a different approach.
Roger,
I agree with that.
Hold on, let Roger.
But I don't have a problem with doing that and making sure you're doing what you should do on your end. But look, the legislature did basically nothing when it came to trying to solve the problem of long lines at the polls, especially, and this is a big problem during the presidential. So the legislature showed its true colors by not doing, working on what
because
type
there
of
was
IDs.
also a bill that they were looking at, and it never even made it out of committee, to extend the length of time that you could vote.
Extend the hours, make sure that we're paying enough so that the electoral boards, especially in the larger communities, have enough poll workers, have enough equipment so that you can check in people and not have the situation a lot of people encountered in Virginia Beach and Chesapeake, where some people waited 4 hours in line. And fortunately, they stayed, but most of them stayed. But, if the legislature really wanted to do something to assist voting, they would work on that problem.
And it would take nothing to take your voter ID card and put a picture on it. So if the churches want to get together and they want to meet with me someplace and we amend one of the voter registration laws to get a picture ID on your voter registration card,
you'd be willing to do that?
It's done.
Oh, I agree with them.
Yeah, no, because there is no problem.
I'd be willing to take part with them.
Some of the people, the older people in Virginia, especially in other states as well, they're going to be the minority. Now, they're doing everything in the world that they can to suppress voter turnout. That's the only way they can win now. So they're going to do it. That's politics. So let's get smart.
All right. I need to change the conversation because we're going to be running out of time soon. But next Saturday, the 16th, the Hampton Roads Black Media Professional celebrating their 30th anniversary and their first Hall of Fame gala. And they're honoring award-winning broadcast journalist Barbara Sierra, print trailblazer Marvin Lake, photojournalist James Wright, black newspaper publisher Brenda Andrews, PR guru Delcino Miles, and NSU professor emeritus Grady James. So my question to you all is, where are we as African Americans in terms of media today? Does our voice matter?
Well, our voice matters. The problem is it's tougher for us to get our voices out there because so many of the old media, in terms of newspapers, TV stations, radio stations, they keep on cutting. And there are fewer jobs there for us, so we have to make sure that we're up on the instant, the Twitter, Facebook, other
no racism involved in that, huh, Buck?
No. You mean how much are you doing on that end? I mean, that's your primary thing. So you figured it out.
I had a conversation in terms of the losing of jobs.
That's happening. I had a conversation with Byron Pitts on my show, who's going to be the MC of the event, and asked him about that, and he said very clearly. He said he's very frustrated, very concerned about it. And what he has found among people of color, his colleagues, he said that it is frustrating that you now have people who have gotten the education, gotten the experience, done all of those things, and they're still saying, I can't find a qualified black person, or I can't find a qualified Latino. He says that, hey, man, we got some institutional things that are going on that have to be corrected because the news business is a relationship business. So Roger, go and look at some of the managers at the Pilot. What are the pictures that are in their offices? Who are the people that are in their lives? And you'll find that if you don't have those relationships, you get to wonder what's going on.
Let's be real about this, Will. It's never been like we've had such a high number or such a high percentage.
It used to be high.
Historically. Yeah, but we're only talking about a couple of percentage points. I mean, and now
it's going in the opposite direction.
Yeah, it's going in the opposite direction.
Barely got any black people covering the White House.
It's never been like we've had a whole lot of numbers. We enjoyed during the heyday of affirmative action where our numbers creeped up some. Now, there are a lot of white folks out of work too in this business. So yeah, we're getting hit. We've always been hit. What we have to do, there's not a whole lot of black-owned outlets. There's not, and we're trying to make a way for ourselves like a lot of other people are. But it's
why
not.
do you need a black-owned outlet if you're covering the community, and this community is 30 to 40% African American? Why do you need to have a black-owned? Shouldn't that just be a good business practice to say, if I've got 40% of my constituents out here, I need to have my I need to have my news. So then what's the reason behind it?
Let me ask the question.
There are about 100 fewer positions, period, at the Virginian-Pilot today than there was in 2007. So what I'm saying is the overall pool has shrunk that much more. So, yeah, we're getting hit on that, but it's never like we've had a huge number in the first place.
Well, let me throw this into the mix because as I've served as an adjunct professor at a predominantly white institution and a predominantly African-American institution. And what I hear from the students is, I want to be an entertainment reporter. Yeah. I want to be a social media reporter. I mean, I don't hear anybody talking about, I want to cover hard news.
I want to be a producer. Or I want to be
exactly. Or I want to be a reporter. Or I want to do something where we're talking about hard news.
But who are the heroes? Who are the heroes? You got that guy Ray Lewis on your team over there in Baltimore. And I won't go through his background, but you have people.
Now wait a minute. You are not allowed to come on my show.
Basically, see, I don't want to hear it. But basically, all we're become are entertainers. I'm not talking about what he's dead. I'm just talking about we have these gladiators out there on the football field, and then we have the basketball players. And then we have the entertainers like all these other guys and Rihanna and what's the lady's name? Beyonce. She's a beautiful lady. She's a beautiful lady. Very beautiful.
Get back to the point.
But that's all they see. They don't see people with their fingernails dirty. They don't see people doing anything. And I think it's deliberate because we see ourselves in those aspects. We don't see ourselves in the vision of W.B. Du Bois or Thurgood Marshall or all of the great leaders we had because our public schools stink. And they are not teaching us the things that we always were taught, every last one of us. I know your grandmother, your mother, somebody told you, once you get this straight in your head and you can read, think, and handle math, you're going to be okay, and you can be anything you want to be. But all they see us now is entertainers, and they don't see us as educators. They don't appreciate or love education, our music, our art, our anything. We just are out here, as far as I'm concerned, clowns. I didn't even watch the Super Bowl. It's insane. And I haven't watched it for 3 years.
Just so you know, the Ravens won. Okay.
And shout out to Tyrod Taylor, homeboy from Hampton Roads, from Hampton, who's on the Ravens.
Absolutely.
He's back up quarter to his family. I know they had a great time. But again, to his point, why do they go to those areas of the media? Because that's what they see on television. Where do you see, how many blacks do you see engaged in hard news coverage? The coverage where you see African Americans is often in sports, entertainment. So people go based on what they see. And then I'll put it back to Roger.
That's a good point.
Why is that? Why isn't there more African Americans visibly covering hard news? I would challenge you. I challenge anybody. I challenge anybody right now. Go to your station and just start flipping through the channels.
Are there any?
What you're going to see is a majority. What you're going to see are white males, and until you get to BET, that's where you start seeing some black folk.
And that's why they should come over to public radio because here we are. Go ahead.
But you're talking about
ahead,
it's changed little in degree. That has not been that much different since time immemorial. But you, even not necessarily working at a daily newspaper, you've carved out a niche for yourself with different things that you're doing in the media. So it's not just working at a newspaper or working at a TV station. It's being engaged, and it's finding paths, and it's learning how to use the new technology and the new media. So, yeah, do some work also on your end and find out ways that you can be involved.
Nobody disagrees with you on that.
All right.
You sure sound like you do.
We only have a minute 30 left, and I'm going to get this in.
You're just giving them a pass.
Because I want to know what you all think is the perfect Valentine's Day. From a male perspective, you got 30 seconds each. Go, Will.
Fly my wife with my Cessna, go up to New York, take in lunch, play, fly on back down to Hampton Roads, check into a beautiful hotel for an evening, and make some progress.
Wow. Bill?
Well, that's beautiful. I just think sitting down and having a good conversation, a good meal, and try to figure out what your plan's going to be in the future to encapsulate all that, be loving, respectful, and listen, and do all those hard things that make your relationship stronger.
And we understand you have a girlfriend now.
Yeah, that's what you
Congratulations. And
I'm going to try to be on earth instead of the fantasy that Will. I didn't know he had a Cessna, but I think it's much more, much like Bill, respecting, talking, enjoying my beautiful wife's company, who we've now 25 years and counting.
Congrats.
And hope that we get in another 25 more.
That's fantastic. And you know what I love about this? I loved hearing African-American men talk in very positive terms about their relationship.
Barbara, what's going to be your Valentine?
Yeah.
What's your Valentine,
with that
Barbara?
great
I'm the host, and we only have, and I have a fabulous African-American man who I love dearly. I will say that. But we are out of time, gentlemen. Thank you so much. We'll see you second Friday of March.
All right.
Absolutely.
All right.
And we'll be right back.
Hi, I'm Claude McKnight of Group Take 6, and you're listening to Another View, Fridays at noon at WHRV 89.5 FM.
How cool is that? Claude McKnight, absolutely. Time now for things to view and do in Hampton Roads.
You will be my Saturday love.
You're invited to attend the 24th Annual Sweetheart Banquet, sponsored by the Leroy Butler Gospel Hour on Sunday, February 10th at 3 at the Smithfield Center, North Church Street in Smithfield. Tickets are available. Call 757-242-4608 for information. The Lemon Project and the Center for Student Diversity at the College of William & Mary presents the Lemon Project Celebration of Dance on Sunday, February 10th at 3 at the Kimball Theater in Williamsburg. The event is free, but tickets are required. Call 1-800-447-8679 to get your free tickets. House leader and civil rights advocate James Clyburn will speak at the Roper Performing Arts Center in downtown Norfolk this Monday, February 11th at 6:30 p.m. as part of TCC's Black History Month observance. The talk is free and open to the public. Doors open at 6 p.m. Girls 8 to 18 are invited to attend the I Love Me event hosted by Grove Church in Portsmouth on Tuesday, February 12th from 7 to 8:30 p.m. This gathering is designed to help girls discover their unique beauty, gifts, and talents and help raise self-esteem. It's free and open to the public. Call 967-9130 for more details. Males ages 8 and above are invited to attend the I Am My Brother's Keeper community event designed to educate, motivate, and empower African-American males about social issues and their effects on the community. It's Saturday, February 16th from 9 until 2 at Mount Lebanon Baptist Church, Campus Stella Road in Norfolk. It's free and breakfast and lunch will be served. Call 390-4328 to register. And Dominion Virginia Power has 19 summer internships for college students available in the areas of mechanical, electrical engineering, IT, corporate finance, accounting, environmental, and chemistry. It's an excellent opportunity for future employment with Dominion. Visit dom.com/careers/intern program to apply. These and other events are on our website, anotherviewradio.org. You can also find podcasts of today's show or any other Another View program, and you can sign up for our eView newsletter, a once-a-week reminder of upcoming shows. Next week, we take a look at prominent African-American men who have made a difference in Hampton Roads. For producer Lisa Godley, audio engineer Perry Smith, Danielle Jenkins, who answered our phones, I'm Barbara Ham Lee. Let's get together again next Friday at noon for Another View.